July 16th, the day I've been looking forward to for a very long time. On the 16th of July, Skyward Sword is getting the good old HD patch that is very common in the Zelda series as of late. Being a fan of the series as a whole and growing up with it as far back as I can remember, I've heard so many complaints about this game. It's just unreal. The whole argument that we use that the motion controls killed the experience and that it made us quit the game before we even started is 100% accurate, if I'm being real. I mean, I felt the same way sometimes, but the story, for me, was just so good that it allowed me to look past this flaw. I'm D-Rock, the creator behind Zelda Theory, and in this video, I'd like to explain why I think that you, especially if you've never really gave the original a fighting chance back in the day, or even if you just love this series and are a fan like me of the Zelda series, I think you should give Skyward Sword another chance. The motion controls were easily the biggest complaint I had about Skyward Sword, and obviously I am not alone here. Countless of you have mentioned that this was a big issue for you as well. That along with the linearity issue, which I do not agree with, but anyway, to the first point, Nintendo fixed that. Good job Nintendo on listening to your fans. So in case you didn't know or hear the announcement of Skyward Sword HD, a couple months back now, Nintendo did announce the release date of the game along with a massive change to the game itself. In the HD remaster, you have the option to either use the motion controls with the Joy-Cons, or you can utilize the button-only layout, which is something that I personally am very excited for and will be using this on the first of my many runs of the Skyward Sword HD. Honestly, as of the making of this video, there's really not much that I actually know about the button-only layout other than the main point that Nintendo already talked about during the actual game announcement, which was that the button-only scheme is going to be mapped to the right analog stick on your controller. Pretty cool. If you are actually using the Pro Controller like me, which in my opinion is mandatory, I'm just kidding, or if you decide to use the default controller scheme, heck, even if you decide to do the unthinkable and undock your Switch. What kind of Switch player are you? Do you keep your Switch docked 24/7 like me, or do you play portable? Let me know in the comments below. This is huge, man. I do remember a while back now that the Zelda series producer did mention to reporters many times that this could not be done because literally the entire gameplay aspect of Skyward Sword was intertwined with the overall game itself. I see through your lies and deception, Nintendo. So chill. I'm so excited for this. No more recalibrating my Wii Motion Plus every 5 minutes. No more. Man, just talking about this is just bringing back so many memories on the first couple playthroughs I did of this game. So much nostalgia. Come on, July 16th. The story of Skyward Sword, in my opinion, is easily one of the best stories in the Legend of Zelda series. From the beginning of the game to when the credits rolled at the end, this game had my attention from the get-go. I stated this at the beginning of the video, but the story of this game is the reason why I was able to look over the tedious amounts of screw-ups and attempts to recalibrate my Wii controller. The plot, the character development, the dungeons, the side quests, and you'll see what I mean when the games drop, except now you'll witness it all in glorious HD. Oh, it's going to be so amazing to witness this all again. I think Skyward Sword deserves a second chance and most definitely deserves your time because now that Nintendo actually listened to us, the fans, and made the overlying issue of the motion controls no longer an issue, it potentially allows veterans of the series and newcomers to the game to give this entry of the Zelda series a fair shot. You feel me? I hear you in your comments on my channel. One of the things I hear a lot is that you just skip this game because of the issue with the motion controls. Well, now that really isn't an excuse for you to give this game a shot. I think you are going to be very pleased. Skyward Sword was also one of the first Zelda games to me that made Link extremely relatable, and he had a personality that a lot of us could relate to. You know, the whole liking girls, boys, or whatever you are into kind of thing. You can't deny that from the very first scene that Link and Zelda share together, you just know that something in that relationship is more than just friendship. This was just something that was never really explored before Skyward Sword was made, and I loved it. The body language of Link in this game was just so good. From his facial expressions to certain things Zelda did, to just emotions that took control of our beloved hero. It was just so cool to finally see a Link that had somewhat of a personality. I do want to also point out that this is the game that started it all. It's the beginning of the entire Zelda series, the beginning of everything that has happened to this point. It's the story of the creation of the Master Sword, the eternal curse of the legendary demise, and what became of that, and what the original Link, Zelda, and Impa went through in order to make sure that this became a reality. This being the events that happened in the Skyward Sword. Not to mention what it could possibly mean for the sequel to Breath of the Wild, which brings me to my next point of this video. Me personally, I think there's a reason for all this madness. I think there is a legit reason why Nintendo decided at this point in time to do an HD revamp of Skyward Sword. Well, maybe two reasons. One, because Nintendo wants new fans of the series to witness and play the origin story of the entire series, right? There are so many new fans to the series because of Breath of the Wild that Nintendo will want them to see where everything began, and of course to milk sales from the success of Breath of the Wild. Totally get that. My other reason, I think personally that Skyward Sword is going to play a massive role in the plot of Breath of the Wild 2 or whatever they actually decide to name the sequel to Breath of the Wild. I think that Fi will make a return in the sequel, as well as Demise. I believe that Nintendo is going to bring this entire timeline, everything that has happened up to this point, up until Breath of the Wild 2 releases, to an end. All of the events that have happened, the reincarnation of Link and Zelda, the evil curse of Demise, it'll all end with this game. What better way to end things than with the story that started it all? This also fits what the Zelda series producer mentioned way back when about the game being dark. I don't know, this would just shape up to be a pretty dark game if you ask me. They'd have to nail it though, obviously, right? I don't want to say any more about this theory because I actually want to make a whole separate video on this. But I do feel like Nintendo has a massive plan in store for this HD remake, as well as the sequel to Breath of the Wild. I'm so ready. Now obviously this won't be the end of the Zelda series, right? But this theory would give Nintendo endless possibilities as far as characters, story, and how the series has worked up to this point. It's really exciting as a fan to see where things might go in the future. If you found value today, click on this video here to dive into more Zelda juiciness. Continue to be the light, and remember, it's dangerous to go alone. Much peace and love. Let's continue the conversation, shall we?